Hi friends, it's Deanna Williston with our Blooming Catholic Life. Hopefully the audio is a little better today. We're back with our old friend microphone, got a new adapter. If you notice, there's a lot more shadows in here, and part of that is because all the lights I use on this side to help get rid of the shadows for you, unfortunately they've all malfunctioned this week, and it's not super safe to be plugging them in. So let's get down to the issue. Today, I was watching a video. It's from the Coming Home Network. Matt Schwame has a series on there, and it's currently called On the Journey with Ken and Kenny. And they are former evangelicals and Protestants, and I don't know how else to say it, but non-Catholic Christians. There's more distinctions in the non-Catholic Christian world than I ever knew. I'm learning so much by watching them. Obviously, I'm already in Rome, so I'm not on the journey home, but I learned so much more about converts and the experience they had while watching those videos. Of course, then there's the comment section. There's a lot of people trying to dissuade people off the journey home. And it's just so interesting. So somebody put a comment, and I think they had a typo, but that typo has led to a really rich reflection for me. And so I wanted to share it with you. If you notice a red glare in my glasses, it's the light from on top of the microphone. Now I'm going to have to try and figure that out. Sorry. So many technical things when you don't have a staff or a budget. You're just a wife and mom with a webcam in the dining room. Yeah. So blinders versus blinkers. This person made a comment about having blinkers on while on your faith journey. And most people kind of ignored what they said. I don't know. It's just so rich. So originally, roads, if we have our blinders on, blinders are a reference if you're from a place that didn't have that historically. Blinders were things that you put on horses that were drawing carriages, so they weren't distracted by other carriages or other things on the road. They were just looking at the road ahead so that you could safely get to your destination. And a lot of people use this expression about being narrow-minded. It means you can only see what's directly in front of you. You can only see the path that was laid out for you, the path that takes you to a very specific destination, whether or not you have chosen that destination. And I know for a lot of us, that is our tradition. It's our culture. It's where we live. And so it's often for people, those blinders come off, like when you go to college, or you make a friend from another culture, or you actually move to a new place. Even for me, it can be as simple as I grew up in Pennsylvania, Dutch country. I was talking to somebody who's from Nicaragua the other day, and I'm like, I can't imagine. I only moved one state away from where I was, and the food were different, and some of the lingo is different, and I miss that language. I miss those foods. I miss the simple way of living that I grew up with, which is nice that I grew up with a simple way of living as a model, because it has probably inspired part of my Franciscan vocation, because that was part of me. Very simple living, community living, community meals. That was all very much a part of who I was, and just delighting in simple things. And so, though I got to college, right, I take those blinders off, and whoa, it's dazzling, it's bright, it's distracting. You may see some shiny thing and go off after it. I know for me, there were many silly things, how about that year where we wore, get this, layers of different colored and ripped cotton tights. So they looked like spider webs. So you might be wearing a burgundy pair that was ripped with a white pair that's ripped over top of it. Your pants were actually flannel boxers that you pulled down low. And then, get this, you're wearing a turtleneck with a very nice dress sweater that had sweatshirt with embroidery on it. And that was our look. Oh yeah, my hair was big and super curly. So that was a trend that I got pulled off into, and it was distracting, because I'll say, although I was at a Catholic college and I was still practicing my faith, there was music that went with those trends that was perhaps not the healthiest music, and we liked the attention it got us. And again, I'm distracted. I can see that attention I'm getting because those blinders have been removed, and I liked that attention, and that was part of it. And so, you have to discern And a lot of people will go off and follow that shinier path. They'll see those neon lights by the side of the road and be like, woo! And some people, it makes them learn more about the path they're on and why it's valuable and why it's good and why they should stay on it. And let's go back into history a little bit more. So often, roadways are built next to rivers. Why next to a river or stream? Because it's life-giving water. So number one, if your journey's long, you're going to be able to get water on your way. You're going to get life-sustaining refreshment on your way, right? You can be refreshed constantly. You don't have to leave the path you're on to go find water. You were there. There's also life there. Wildlife is also coming to the water, as well as plants. So there may be food plants as well as animals that you could eat for food along your way. So it makes sense to walk along a river. Also, a river is a distinct landmark. So if you're walking, if there's no real path or anything, trying to walk alongside a river is going to get you somewhere. There's often a village or other people along there. So you know there's going to be something along that river. There's other ways of living along that river. It's going to take you to another community at some point. And often, because of why rivers are there, they're at low, flat areas, right? And so it can be easier walking as well. That's how rivers are formed. You know, it comes down off the land to a spot and then it flows to a lower spot. So it's going to be easier walking generally near a river or a stream. And so that's also why people like to walk along rivers and things. It's easier going. Now, sometimes, even though there's a path or maybe a little road there, you're still going to come across some brambles or some rough patches or some rocks that you need to scramble over. Again, you are next to that life-giving water. So when you have that troublesome area, you're still able to go get refreshed or get food and get nourished. I mean, you can see the many levels of metaphors here. It's another reason we stay close. Also, if you run into danger, say you break a leg or something, people are more likely to find you along that river than they are if you're up in the bush, up into the dense woods, right? Or even out in the big desert expanse of nowhere where there's no landmarks. People are going to be more likely to find you if you're next to water. Okay, we can go on then. Those rough patches. People are naturally going to. Hi, friends. Sorry about that. I have brought the phone back with me in case there's another call. That was a bit of a spam call there. And those are the distractions that we face every day. So as I was saying, on the road, you have those difficult places, whether it's a deep ravine, a steep rocky area. It can be a downed tree. It can be like anything, right? And there's of course the metaphors there for anything that happens in your life. A calamity, maybe a family member dies. You lose your house, you lose your job, things happen, you're forced to move, right? So people will come up with ways of getting over and around those hazards. Now, they could be as simple as a simple bridge to help you get over troubled waters, right? And that can keep you on the path or it can distract you. Sometimes that easier way is not as good. Sometimes you have to push through the hard times. To extend the metaphor, if you've moved somewhere or say your family's getting ready to move, sometimes it's better for you to stay where you are. Maybe you'll insist on moving in with someone else or you're setting up your own place so you don't have to move that location. And there are some merits to that. And sometimes your family's moving, sometimes you need to go with them. I'm thinking of myself as a teenager when my mother and stepdad moved. And sometimes it'll be more beneficial for you. It's a different path if you go with them. There were advantages and disadvantages to each of those, and I had to discern which one was better for me. If I'd kept my blinders on, I probably would have just obediently gone with my parents. I didn't have my blinders on at that point. I stayed behind with neighbors, which was not the best situation, we found out later. Nothing ever is going to be perfect, but I stayed close to my grandparents. I do think there was a lot of merit in that because my grandparents made sure I got to church every week and really helped me develop my faith. Because I went to church every week with my grandparents, I went over an hour early and I spent a lot of time in adoration and going to confession before Mass. If I'd moved with my parents, who would make sure I got to church. I probably wouldn't have gone early. I wouldn't have had anybody to sit in adoration with, but there was a Catholic college nearby that I might have ended up going to. So it's not necessarily a really good choice and a really awful choice. Sometimes we're choosing between two good things. When those blinders come off, you can see those two good things. And so sometimes, yes, the light blinding, overwhelming when those blinders come off, because you could go different directions. I mean, we all love the metaphor of the narrow path, but if the path was just narrow, and that was the only quality different from any other path, it'd be pretty easy to stay on it, right? You could see it, and you could easily find it, and you'd stay on it, and that would be wonderful. But that's not the life we were given. We were given choices to make, right, friends? We are given so many choices. And we can keep going with this metaphor, exploring it historically, right? As roads develop and paths are there, sometimes those bridges are going to take you out of your way. Sometimes the path is going to veer off into a town. Is it better or worse? You have to make those choices, as well as roadside services evolve, right? There's going to be people along there selling you food or an inn for the night, which may offer you some safety and security in number. It may offer you a home-cooked meal instead of cooking on the trail and sleeping, in a little makeshift shelter. So there are advantages and disadvantages. Now there are people who are going to build roadside stands that are selling you like vending machine junk food. And so you're going to have to discern what is healthy and helping you keep on that path and what is making you unhealthy so that you really can't go on that path. And maybe you're going to need to find an easier road or just a different road or just stop journeying at all. There's so many metaphors here to really explore your faith journey. Use it as a lens to explore and describe your faith journey that you were on. Now, on the journey with Matt, Ken, and Kenny, their faith journey, although they all came from different places, all led them to the Catholic Church, but it looked different for each of them. There were different things that helped them along the way and different things that hurt them along the way. Many little side paths some of them take. Some of them take a very straight path when, they get a fork in the road and they have to make a decision and they make the decision. But sometimes there's a lot of little things that go on or multiple forks in the road that lead them there. And so it's a metaphor that is useful for discussing with people their journey, their faith journey. But what the person typed wasn't the word blinders, but the word blinkers. And I can't tell from their post whether they meant to write blinders, which is what everybody was going with, or did they mean to write blinkers? Because what does it mean when you put your blinkers on your car? It means, hey, I need to go slow and be careful around me. Now, it could be a mechanical problem. It could literally mean that they're lost. It could be that there's something going on in the car. Maybe somebody's sick or something, and so they need to not put their full attention on the road, so that's why they're going slow. So blinkers could mean a number of things. And we've all seen people with basically blinkers on their faith journey saying, whoa, I'm overwhelmed. Be careful around me. I need to go slow. I don't know what's going on, or I need help. And just as on the road, do we see that person with their blinkers on and try and discern what their problem is and if they need help, if we can give help, if we need to call for help, right? Sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't feel safe stopping to ask if they need help. And in this day and age, in any day and age, that's kind of fair. We have the story of the Good Samaritan, right? In any day and age, I think we all understood that. But did you go and you could still, in this day and age, you can call on your cell phone and get state police to come and help the person if you truly think they need help. You could just slowly roll down your window and just be like, hey, do you need directions? You have to discern your safety level. And it's like that in the spiritual level. Sometimes you stop to help someone, but maybe they are in an unsafe situation. Maybe there is domestic violence going on. Maybe it's human trafficking. Or it's a mental illness. And there are times where you getting involved is not going to be helpful for you or for them. Sometimes we need to make those boundaries, but you need to call in. Do you need to call a mental health professional? Do you need to call in a pastor? Do you just need to call in an adult or someone who's older than you or more mature? Whatever. For teens, I want to stop and use this as a moment. If there's human trafficking involved, there's drug involved, it's a mental health or suicide issue, you are not the expert. You can be there to accompany your friend, but you getting drawn into that is a real possibility. And so you need to go and tell adults, tell professionals, mental health professionals, depending on what the situation is, you need to call in those professionals. They're literally professionals for a reason, because they have professional training and they're trained for these situations. If you're not sure which professional call 911 and that will get you the gamut, right? That'll get you the gamut. Calling a pastor is always a good choice. They have training on emergency situations as well and should be able to help you. The average mom on the street may not know the appropriate mental health agency or food bank or whatever the person needs. So sometimes contacting a government official is the way to go because they know the resources. Another good choice is the head of a church is often someone who can help. Not every time, but often. Often they have the connections to get the person the appropriate resource. So people have their blinkers on. They need help. Are you offering them help, or are you just making the situation worse? That happens too, right? You can come up behind them and honk your horn and tell them to get out of the way. You can cut real close by them. You can pass them on the shoulder, which is dangerous, right? And we do that in real life as well. So are we helping our brothers and sisters who are on the journey, who are, you can see sometimes they have some questions or some chinks in their armor. And sometimes in the comment section on these videos, you can see people who maybe are irritated because they can see there may be something wrong with the path they're on, or they're at a crossroads and that one, and they feel that there's something wrong with it, but they also can't walk away from that choice. And so sometimes in the comment section, that's what you get is people who are angry or frustrated. Are they frustrated because there's this other path that people think is the right path, but they're pretty sure it's not? But if they were 100% sure, friends, they would move on. And they haven't moved on. Why haven't they moved on? There's something there. And so you need to be helpful. Sometimes the comment section, you're not the best person to help them in there, but you can offer a few comments. Try and hear where they're coming from, and maybe you can just discern out the problem, because sometimes it's not what it is on the surface, or there's many different aspects and levels to their problem, right? Sometimes when you're walking along that path and you come across a rock wall, do you go over it? Do you go around it? Do you go under it? Do you go through it? It's that old going on a bear walk? Is it bear hunt? Yeah, going on a bear hunt. Right? And you come to an obstacle and you either have to go over it, under it, around it, or through it. And how do you figure that out? Even in the song, sometimes you can't figure it out. But having another person accompany you, not necessarily trying to give you all the answers, but sometimes having somebody accompany you and listen to you, and the person can discern it themselves or find an expert. You know, sometimes just that act of listening can be enough. That's hard to do in a comment section, but sometimes you can do it, and sometimes you can just be like, hey, I hear you, and I appreciate you wrestling with this. I appreciate your struggle, right? I see that, and may God bless you on your journey, and you can just walk away and leave it like that. Sometimes you don't have to put it in the comments. Sometimes you can pray the comment section of a video. Just go through and pray for all the people whose names are there. That's all you have to do. You don't have to enter into that battle of words. You can enter into the battle for hearts. You can call down Jesus, the Holy Spirit, say, you know, I really need you. I think this person is really struggling and they really just need you to shine the light in the darkness so that they can see the correct path to go on. And perhaps that's it, friends. Perhaps that's what we really need. Whether we have blinders or blinkers on, sometimes our job is to lead somebody to the correct resource. Sometimes it's just to hold their hand as they go through a rough patch. Sometimes we just need to listen, and sometimes we just need to let go and let God. When I say that, I mean pray. You're letting God do it, and you're letting go of the responsibility for it maybe a little bit, but you're praying. You're giving it to God to handle the situation. Does it need to keep you up at night? Probably not. Do you need to pray for that person occasionally or revisit that thought or check in on them? Yeah, that's probably the better response. And I'm loving this thought train here. If you are, you can like, share, and subscribe, but please put your comments below. I know there are friends who watch these videos and almost never comment unless they think they have something really valuable to share. Well, I'm here to tell you, friends, you all have something really valuable to share because we are brothers and sisters in Christ and we're on this journey together. So whether it's as simple as a smiley face, a heart, or say that you're praying for someone else in the comments section, feel free to put that below. May God bless you, friends. May He make His light to shine upon you and be gracious to you. And may the Lord bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.